start the Zoom meeting also at 4 p.m.
Sorry?
We start the Zoom meeting at 4 p.m. sharp, right?
Yeah. So it will go live now on Facebook and all over right away.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for the cues from.
We are live now.
Okay. Welcome to the second edition of E4M Tech Munch virtual series. Topic for today is very relevant and something which everyone is talking about. We'll be discussing, is digital marketing the best bet for marketeers? As we have seen, a lot of focus has been, people are spending and consuming content on digital. And it seems like, digital was waiting for this particular moment to happen. We always thought about, going digital, but I think this is the landmark event, I may call in that domain, that we all are forced to look at digital. I would first introduce my panelists today. I have with me Anushree Ghosh, Head of Digital Strategy and Media ITC Limited. I have Gaurav, this Head Digital Marketing. I have Zahid and Head Digital Content and Social Media Marketing HDFC, and I have Shruti Khanna, Deputy Manager Digital and Retail Marketing for India. Welcome all of you.
Hi guys.
Hi everyone.
I hope you guys are used to this lockdown so much that I think going to office will be really a struggle after this.
Possibly.
Yeah.
We're just, this is inertia, lockdown inertia. You don't like to move?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So the format would be that we have this 1 hour of session and we will keep 15 minutes for live Q&A, which I'll be sharing with you. So I can start with you, Anushree. My first question is, I'll come to all of you for this answer. Can we now say that the era of digital marketing is, have we been very reminded of this fact that digital is here and it's very relevant?
Well, actually, if you, this could be one of those watershed moments which kind of give the inflection point to any medium. So I think, perhaps the lockdown could be termed as one of those. But actually, if you look at since the last 1 year or so, I mean, ever since, we got into this stage of slowdown, digital has kind of become a go-to medium for brands. There have been, it has kind of attained enough scale for it to be comparable, whether it's cost per reach or whether it's from pure play reach and frequency numbers. So from an effectiveness and efficiency perspective, I think digital has gained scale in the last 2 years. Last year, I think we did an analysis and there were various papers floating around which basically spoke about how digital did not really witness the flattening or did not really witness a decline when it comes to advertiser spend, while every other medium did. So slowdown did contribute, monies to actually move towards digital. That's more from an effectiveness and efficiency standpoint. But the lockdown essentially has moved consumers to anywhere content is being served. And digital happens to be one of the largest such mediums. And whether it's from a time spent perspective or a reach perspective or the variety of content perspective, or digital being that go-to medium for seek out behavior, because we all today live in micro moments. We have these questions of how to that we want answered at any given point of time. So digital happens to be one of those mediums that kind of becomes the starting point of all consumer journeys. So yes, I guess this is one of those watershed moments which could be defined as the inflection point for digital.
Gaurav, I want to ask you, with digital going for a toss, in a way, is this the opportunity for digital marketeers to establish their clout?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Anushree has also mentioned, this is the right time, and from past 2 years, digital has also picked up. But I would say digital has been a part of all the strategy which brands should play. But going forward, after seeing the situation, what is happening right now, absolutely, this is the right time for the companies that previously did not fully develop their digital strategy, have the opportunity to switch gears and transform the loss into potential gain by making changes on their website, enabling payment gateways on their website. I'm talking about the some traditional companies, basically upgrading their content marketing strategies. Search engine optimization will definitely come into play, because most of the people connect digital marketing with the spends and all those stuff, but there are certain things which you can utilize free of cost, which is one of them is search engine optimization and engagement on your social handle. And Anushree is very much aware about that. Recently these guys have activated their Ashirwad Atta, Instagram page, where these guys are sharing recipes, and that's the best way of connecting with their customer, engaging with their customer, sharing recipes. So that's a very good things these brands are doing, especially Mondelez. Mondelez initially, recently they have activated their delivery channel. They opened their delivery channel. Now they are connecting with their customers directly, the D2C, and which is the future of e-commerce, I can say. So definitely this is the right time for the brands, and so that they can explore the opportunity in digital medium. And the best part about the digital is obviously they can track the performance. They can see what customers are consuming, what is the kind of advertising they're getting, so I think, yeah, definitely this is the right time to utilize digital for future perspective, definitely.
Shruti, your thoughts on it? Do you agree with what has been said?
See, digital is definitely the go-to medium. It's been picking up tremendously from the last year, the second half of the last year specifically, so to say. There has been a certain shift that's coming. Even when you're working from home and you see a lot of people who are at home today, traditional has not gone down, but digital has still increased. So that shift is subtle, but it's really coming in. So you can see that coming months are going to be very critical. Digital is going to be the prima facie up point. People are going to be really consuming content as they are now. The curve is not going to flatten immediately. The curve is going to increase, and the curve is going to increase in a more equated fashion. There's going to be an increment in digital, and there's going to be an increment in television, so to say, also, because that's what we're consuming now, and we're getting habituated to it. Right. So digital is definitely on the uprise. There's no two ways about it. But it's when COVID, when we get over with this, and when the lockdown gets removed, and when people start moving onto offices, what is the timings that the consumption is going to really get back to? Because the consumption patterns will change. But yes, the consumption will remain, and it will still see an uprise. That's what I feel.
A little small. I will request everyone to microphones till they are when I come to them, so that our audio levels are audible. I mean, there's a little glitch in that. Zahid, I want to come to you with the same question. Has the moment for digital marketeers arrived? They worked hard for this, I think. Are you trying to? How are you seeing this?
Well, Rohel, let me tell you this way. There's a twist over here. It's not so clear the way we are generally seeing it as. First, when this topic came to me, it seemed to me as if like, are you asking me do you need oxygen to stay alive? Okay, that's how it fell. Okay, but let's slightly deep dive. Today, 70% of people are consuming online media, out of which, like, let's say 50, the main age group is around 15 to 34. That's 73%. 35 plus, it's only 27% consuming online media. So for them, still, the preliminary thing is TV. If you see Ramayana crossing Game of Thrones, so it's still TV. Okay. However, if I divide digital, the word digital, there is digital marketing and then there is digital assets. So if you ask me, is digital marketing going to have a change? I'll address that later. Overall, the entire digital infrastructure needs to change now. Let me give you an example. Like, let's say for our business in the BFSI industry, in-person meeting is very important, right? Be it to close the deal or to close the KYC document. That entire downstream process has to change. We have been, and I think Gaurav rightly mentioned, the CTOs, the CIOs, the IT team, we all have been struggling to do this. But this is like somebody has whipped us and told, now it's time. It's now or never. So everybody now is the entire backend is getting stitched up so that the entire end-to-end process can be straight through. How Aadhaar can be used in a better way so that we can do the entire end-to-end business without even going and meeting the person. We are trying to get more of video calling done so that the KYC can be done over there. So these thought through the little nuances to end the call or to end the sale, which should have been doing earlier. I think this is the right time that we are trying to put our digital assets. So I think that's how the whole word digital is getting redefined. It's not only in terms of digital marketing, but all assets in a banking perspective or any other organization's perspective. All assets. The overall merger and acquisition has gone down by 8%, but still Apple went ahead and bought in $100 million this new AR organization, right? That's because the new wave that's coming up, be it in terms of the whole offline part, will be AR based. So I think that's how people are kind of upstreaming themselves in terms of fine tuning their digital assets, so that I don't need a physical touch point at all going ahead. And I think that's going to be the new normal. Digital marketing will stay, and we'll talk about it later, that digital marketing is staying, but acquisition has completely changed to more of brand-led communication. So that's a different context,
Anushree, my next question is that while we are seeing this spike and this, people are liking and consuming digital, but there's another fear, the fear of once the lockdown ends and once the other traditional platforms open up again, will this get reversed? What we have seen is this here to stay? Or will we go back to where we were earlier?
I think a couple of points that I would want to make here. And when we call, and I completely agree to the gentleman who was speaking right before me, and digitization is a really large conversation before we even kind of attempt to speak about digital marketing. So that's a large, important conversation to have. But yeah, there are a couple of things which have happened thanks to, or probably because of the lockdown, which have perhaps created a larger habit change. So of course there's going to be a correction. Like, for example, news as a genre is really surging today, and over a period of time, news as a genre is going to correct itself, right? Similarly, digital as a genre, the time spent is disproportionately high. So is the time spent on television. If you look at the BARC reports, it's actually all mediums, all content platforms are witnessing a huge surge when it comes to reach as well as the time spent. However, on digital, there are two things that have happened, and I'm just going to kind of pick up one of the habits which have really shifted. Is, the content platforms or the OTTs have suddenly seen this surge of consumers who have now witnessed this possibility of video on demand. So earlier, consumers who are used to viewing content from an appointment viewing perspective, they have now been exposed to a newer way of content consumption, which is video on demand. So it could be from a free, freemium, or paid subscription perspective. Now that's a new exposure. that is likely to kind of perhaps stay on, because video on demand, essentially has its own virtues, and hence there's a lot more control that the consumer has on the way you consume content. That's one piece. And I was also reading somewhere, it's around e-commerce, right? So right before lockdown, I think the first week, which is the week of 25th of March, and right before that, I think in 2 weeks, e-commerce, apps put together just in 2 weeks saw around 8 million downloads put together, all apps put together, which essentially means whether or not they were delivering, which essentially means you suddenly became comfortable to this idea of ordering online over an app. It could be an app of DMart, it could be a Kirana store app, it could be Swiggy grocery, it could be Zomato grocery. Any of these, what essentially happened was that you opened up to your mind to accepting groceries, vegetables being delivered to your home. So these are two large habits which essentially shifted, which perhaps is here to stay. Other time spent media consumption, I think it's going to kind of correct itself and it's going to kind of reach its status quo levels. But there are certain larger habits which have kind of changed. And I think one of the habits I will actually talk about in when we speak about content, so to speak, because there is this emergence of creators which has started to happen, which essentially means my competition to branded content is not another branded content. It's actually competition from creator content, which, I think we should delve a little deeper when we are speaking about, content. But there are these quasi brand ambassadors all over. And we are really, really, emotionally connected to these people, whether it's in the makeup space, whether it's in the recipe space, whether it's in the music space, or ed tech has become really large, telemedicine has become really large. So you're suddenly open to these possibilities of remote consumption of guidance or some kind of solutioning. So I think there are some larger behavioral changes that have happened, which are perhaps here to stay. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me? Yes. So I said,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It takes 21 days to form a habit, and we are well into 1.5 months. So yes, the habit is there. Gaurav, I want to come to you.
Yeah.
Do you think from the certain habit of going digital, and marketeers will benefit it, and it won't go back to where it used to be? It'll be slightly higher than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone has mentioned that people are getting used to the new normal now. They are consuming more content. They are, they are very much comfortable in using, delivery apps and all those stuff. If I'll give you one more example. So I was reading somewhere that recently on Google, near me related queries had decreased and the delivery related queries has increased during this time. So like more and more people are kind of searching about these things, and they are getting comfortable with online delivery, because this will be a new normal going forward, considering basic hygiene, safety and all those stuff. So I think the curve will remain there in terms of consumption, obviously increase. And also that Zahid has mentioned that instead of digital marketing, digital will be there definitely. I can tell you from my personal experience. So recently, we like 6-7 months back, we launched chatbot on our website for basic stuff like checking itinerary, downloading itinerary, flight status check, and all those stuff. So during this time, during the lockdown, the queries on we have seen a 5x increase in queries on our chatbot, which is phenomenal. And now we are kind of thinking of expanding that chatbot into different parameters as well. So definitely digital will grow in terms of consumption. Digital marketing is an outcome of that particular consumption, that how much money you are spending. That depends on what is the kind of TG you want to target, what is the kind of reach you want to see on your particular plan. So I think digital will remain there, and consumption pattern will definitely push this digital marketing further. And people are enabling voice search on their website, because that's a new millennial thing. Most of the new millennials are comfortable with voice messages. Yeah. So I think all these pattern will definitely give a boost to entire digital, and hence your digital marketing will definitely grow. So yeah.
Shruti, your thoughts on this?
So digital marketing or digital, I mean, it's a holistic view, right? Digital is huge, and you can segregate it by different content types. You can segregate it by different mediums of how and where you're communicating. But eventually, it's the consumer who's consuming the content, and that consumer base is really increasing. And stay at home has become the new normal, which is very true. And I agree with Anushree and Gaurav and Jayed when they say that the downloads have really increased, the app downloads have increased. And it's very true, you know, whether it's the local kirana shop, everyone is coming up with a digital solution. You have governments who are bringing out apps which are, you know, in very quick turnaround times, which used to take much longer earlier, just for the convenience of the consumer, and the consumer is using it. We are consuming that content, and that is acceptance of the medium you know, so to say. So the acceptance of the medium is really increasing, and which is exactly the reason why this is going to really go up now. Virtual drives, virtual home showings is really going to increase. You if you want to buy a house, the new normal could probably be where you're seeing a virtual house. You have someone who is doing a virtual video of the house and taking you, doing a full 360 turnaround, answering questions for you online. That could be possibly the new normal. You're taking a virtual test drive of a car. That could be the possible new normal. Until now, you wanted to physically touch and feel a car. You would still want to do it. But the first step to it would probably be doing a virtual look and feel. If you really want to be there, right? Instead of risking going out and really being there and getting averse to a factor of yes or no, you might want to do it online because that becomes the new normal. And I mean, I was reading somewhere, and there's a friend of mine who put up a post. It's very true, said that never say never. There was a time when we said digital is never going to take up. Digital is never going to, you know, pick up. Digital is never going to kill traditional media. And it's very true to say never, because digital is really picking up now, and digital is the new now. So it's about the content that you're serving. Everyone is serving content. Today, if I open a channel on YouTube or on Facebook and I start creating content, I will have viewers if the content is relevant to people staying at home. And that's relevant to everyone. It's not only a brand, it's every consumer is becoming content driven on his own. So yes, it's here to stay.
Zaid, let me reframe this for you. So once the lockdown opens up and other platforms are also there competing, is there a fear also among marketeers, that digital marketeers especially, that we might lose a certain amount of spike that we have seen? Are you also prepared for that?
Okay, cool. So, it's never a either or odd story. It's always and, right? I think, though I'm very sensitive to what's happening and why the lockdown is happening, but if I may take a leeway, and if I just may quote an analogy, like this is for digital marketing or for digital, this is like God's way of enforcing a demonetization into the digital world, right? So if you are not, this is the time, do it or you lose your business. And that's why I think everybody, the ITs, the marketing guys, everybody is running from pillar to post to get themselves digitally enabled, right? And so now let's say now, Ruhil, you mentioned 21 days to form a habit. I might just ask you 100 years of traditional habit versus.
Your audio is muted, sorry. Yeah. It's a very great point, yes.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's 100 years of traditional habit versus only 10 years of digital habit, which takes a more time to kind of, get rid of. So it's a lot of ifs and buts, But what the way I see the best part of the best part of lockdown, if I have to take it in a very positive way, okay, is that, see, when I'm sure all of us have come from the sales side, and then we have evolved ourselves to marketing. The first thing that we used to hate in sales is we have to go out in the sun and then reach out to the customers, and then the customer might say, I'm not even present, meet me tomorrow. Okay, let's take how much of time the guy can efficiently do sitting at his own house. So the virtual meetings, we generally take 8 meetings 2 or 8 times 8 touch points to set up a meeting. That's research says, right? Rain says that. The number of touch points might increase. It might be that 12 touch points to set up a meeting, but it becomes a more progressive thought process. The sales guys are sitting at their home. The work-life balance increases, right? Uh, real estate might the real estate prices might come down. Organizations infrastructure will be nicely placed. There's a lot of positive impact that will be there in the ecosystem at large, than just talking about that digital will be of a great boon and not others are. What I feel is, post lockdown, things might just still come back to normal slowly. COVID is a dormant state. It's not that it's gone out of our bodies completely. It's not. Okay. So COVID is at a dormant state. It might just relapse, might not relapse. It's very futuristic to comment right now. But what will be interesting to see is, with digitally equipped every organization, how well, and see, Indians, especially Indian organizations, never had the concept of work from home. And that's why we are struggling where 24 hours have virtually become work from home. Now, slowly, we are finding ethics. We are finding the etiquette of working from home. HR is slowly rolling down. In fact, they also now cracking what are the right etiquette of working from home. Now, see, when these things are progressing, what's happening is we are rightly using the machineries that have been given to them, or it was lying with us. We were not using them to use our time most efficiently, to use our workspace most efficiently. And I think that will be a very good mix to see how digital will be a digital juxtaposed against traditional infrastructure gives me the best of combination, and hence any organization can leverage these two tools in the best way. And as I said, digital marketing part of it is a very small nuance. That's always there to see later. But this infrastructure setup will be very interesting to see how it's shaping up.
So I want to make a small announcement that we are live on FB, Twitter, Insta, Exchange for Media website, and we're getting a lot of questions. So you can tweet us with hashtag E4M webinar and send us the questions. A lot of questions already started coming in. Shruti, I want to now come to you with my next question is, going forth, we always heard in the last few years about digital getting a lot of attention from brands in terms of spends, the budgets. Going forth, as we move from here, do you think this is going to be the digital will figure more prominently in the marketing mix than what we used to see in terms of budget allocations?
Yeah, so I think digital is going to hold a higher share in the pie of the marketing mix. It's always been there. For us, for example, for Ford, digital has been a high contributor in the share of the marketing pie for us overall. But I think all brands are going to slowly move towards it, because it's not, like I said earlier, it's not one phase of digital or one part of digital, it's the entire media consumption, right? And that is going to increase, that is increasing. It's on the spike, right? So the curve may slow down, but it will not stop, and it will steadily keep improving. So the mix has to include digital. It's not going to survive without that. Definitely traditional media will remain, because Jahid said very rightly, it's a choice between whether you form a habit in 21 days or you lose the 100 years old habit. Which is easier? You will most likely lose a 21-day habit that you formed sooner than the older habits that you've had since your childhood, right? But the ones that you have formed now will remain, not that they'll go out. So your mix has to include it. Brands will not be able to survive. And that's, again, from experience and from the way we've been dealing with digital, in our industry and in our company at Ford. Digital holds a major share, and we believe that digital is the way forward to come, because brands need to be online. Consumers are consuming content everywhere. You're in a metro, you're online. You're in a car, you're online. You have the driver driving for you, or you're listening to some content online, right? You have music apps which also give you content now. And if you're not there where the consumer is, it's very difficult to catch hold of the consumer just on a print in the morning, or just towards radio, let's say 2 times in a day, which are the peak hours when you're traveling, or just on television when you're watching it, probably prime time news in the evening or in the morning. So digital is the way forward, and brands have to add that in the share of mix. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for survival. Eventually, it's not going to be competition; it's going to be content that lives. And if the brands that deliver the content with the right mix are going to survive.
Gaurav, I want to understand your thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think digital. If we'll talk about the digital ad spends, it's been increasing Y on Y. AdX is increasing digital Y on Y, so that's something that will continue in future as well. But the only change which we are seeing at this point in time, as I earlier mentioned, that habit is getting changed on on daily basis. So we have seen a increase in consumption close to 30% during this time. People are consuming more content digitally and all those stuff, right? Newer and newer people are coming to e-commerce website or the e-commerce apps. They are making purchases. They are searching for where can I get the delivery at my home or something like that. So these are the queries are increasing. So hence if you want to capture these intent, if you want to reach out to these people, so obviously you have to spend something extra on digital, because consumption pattern is already there. So once you start spending on digital, at least the best part about digital is you can see your what is the kind of ROI you are getting from that particular campaign or the particular channel. And you can easily figure it out, what is the kind of buying pattern of user is showing, what is the high what is the lifetime value of a user, and you can personalize your messaging. That's the best part. If I talk about the main line, so you can't personalize your message with a respective user. So I think definitely digital ad spends will continue to increase, but in terms of priority, because in a typical media plan, digital is one of the line item of the media plan, which holds like 10 to 15% of overall spends. But now onwards, I can see that digital will be a central medium, and the rest of the things will revolve around it, supporting items, and it will take a first priority in media plan. So that's the best part about it.
So a lot of questions coming. So I think after this round, we will go to the Q&A round. Anushree, for you, what a lot of people are saying is that digital is fine, convenient, it targets you and everything else. But the issue is that there's no impact, no a physical, experiential impact. But you said that AR and VR can, compensate for it. But tell me, how do you explain that the budgets would go here when some of them are saying that the impact is missing? Sometimes the long lasting impact you would just forget about it.
So I think budgets is an outcome. In most cases, and I'm talking from a CPG perspective. In most cases, media plans actually try to reach out to where the consumer is. So if I'm the if I identify a target audience, if the consumer is on digital, ideally the media plan should be able to reach me on digital, and similarly on other mediums. So the budget is pretty much an outcome of a more consumer centric planning approach. But what needs to kind of then come into the picture, and I think this lack of digital impact piece actually comes from the lack of digital measurement, so to speak. I think digital measurement, which is the single source measurement, where you're able to kind of understand the attribution or the role of each of these mediums in brand building. I think that's the piece which is kind of missing. So I think before we actually talk about critical mass of investment on digital, it's essentially kind of having a more robust measurement of impact, a more robust single source planning mechanism which can be adapted across industries. Because I think television became television simply because the organization or a more condensed view of multiple reach mediums coming together. So I think digital is still siloed. Digital still has their own whims and fancies. Each of the platforms are kings in their audience, hubs in their own rights. Everyone wants to become a garden. So all of those concerns actually make digital a medium which a lot of mass marketers question in terms of impact. So I guess it's the back end, or it's the digital infrastructure from a strategy, planning and measurement that needs to kind of come to the fore if we really are looking at digital investment at scale.
Zahid, I mean, your category already, I think, one of the most mature players in the way they use digital, BFSI. But tell me, I mean, from here, do we see further strengthening of those digital budgets in your category as well?
Yeah, so let me take this in two ways. First of all, when let me draw parallel this entire lockdown scenario to 2000 recession. Okay, we are going through now. A lot of organizations are doing what they're telling. Wow, wow, it's just like no business, cut down your media cost. Forget about digital also. It's like overall media cost. Okay, now this is the right time to actually take a step back, think through, because 65% of consumers have told that if this is the time if the brands can relate to me. This is the time if you don't go media dark and in a very positive way talk to me, then when post lockdown these brands will see much more incremental effect from the same consumers. Okay, so first of all, I think the most important thing is not to go media dark, but to constantly, obviously, how much of the budget is it like the CFO's call and the CMO's call, how much the CMO can convince the CFO. Okay, but it's an organization should ensure that they are present in a very nice way in the entire digital spectrum, and maybe ATL's TV, because I think these are the two mediums that's very significant only at this point of time. Now coming to digital, see, what's happening is what will change. Like, let's say we used to have those traditional events, and like, let's say auto car show, Shruti will relate to it, right? We used to have these big events and all this to happen. People used to come in, we used to have leads, right? Now let's say after spending X amount, we used to get like X leads. Hence you can obviously draw a parallel to the cost per lead. Now just think that entire thing will shift to digital. Okay, instead of having a well spread, let's say auto show, you might be having a completely a virtual reality led auto show. Okay, might be saving the whole making cost of a virtual reality is one time, and hence having it multiple times will save a lot of cost. And then you have the leads. Now following up on the leads also becomes very easy. You block the calendar, be persistent, be polite, but you can continuously follow on it. So that's how the digital spread will change. Now coming to the part of digital mix, it's not important that how much budgets we're gonna give. I think there was always a question that was asked to digital, that will digital means measurement. So how will you give me the exact measurement and what digital is doing? I think this is the time the entire digital team should step up, put their measurement metrics, even if it's like a 5% or 10% of their cost. They should get all the tools embedded so that they can prove to the senior management that yes, digital is actually the way to go ahead, both in terms of brand visibility, as in creating awareness, and in terms of downstream end-to-end, sales. Because if you can prove at this point of time, I think then this is the real go ahead, and you have to just take it with open arms. And if you can really prove to your senior management that digital can do both, not only sales or not only visibility, that it can do both, and if you can really help out with a good media mix and attribution model, I think then the gates are open to you even after post lockdown. Nobody can take that from you.
So I have a lot of questions coming in. I think we will start with the Q&A round, and I want everyone to kind of have their questions answered. I'll start with you, Anushree. The first question is from Rishi Jain. He's asking, what happens to like real estate, which is high involvement, experience-based category?
Sorry, I missed some part of the sentence.
So Rishi Jain is asking, what happens to sectors like real estate, which is a high involvement experience-based category? How would digital serve them?
So there are, I think, two ways, and I think I think the largest use case of digital is personalization, and today we are seeing personalized experiences being served to consumers basis the data that gets generated or garnered by multiple players. So I think personalized offerings to to real estate players, from real estate players, to when you actually reach out to consumers, such that whether it's from an experience perspective, their entire funnel, I think the entire experience can be brought alive, right from awareness of a particular property to making someone aware of the area that they are in, to possibly the budgets that they would potentially be kind of looking at. So I think there is a lot more information that that we have currently to kind of, and I think real estate anyway, if you have been heavy on digital in the past, you would be sitting on a mine of data like that. So I think personalization at scale becomes a very large use case for any of these larger, higher involvement categories. So whether it's automobile, whether it's real estate, or even BFSI, I think personalization at scale would be a large use case for digital, especially in this time.
Sorry, Zahid, since this is related to real estate and SDFC does a lot in that, space. I mean, tell me a little bit about this, your perspective on, how can digital help the real estate?
So see, I think players like Anarock, they had almost taken that step to digitalize the entire, end-to-end process in real estate. But I think what Rishi might be asking is, how do I have a look and feel of a, let's say, if I used to go for an open plot, they used to have that, sample house created out over there to show me, right? That, take a tour of this house. And though in a later case, 25% might not be matching in a real house versus what the sample flat was shown, that's a different story. But I think that's what Rishi is asking, that, how will I ensure that what I'm seeing is what, or actually in real estate, I need to see the house before I buy. How do I get into that? So Rishi, to your answer, people are, again, that's why we were telling that, we have to be prepared with digital as an asset. Digital marketing is a subpart to it. And believe me, though, again, I was telling this point that merger and acquisitions are dropping by 8.3%. But during this scenario also, Apple acquired an AR tech tool called Next VR with $100 million, just to ensure that, the entire VR space is geared up for this. Things like auto, things like, even like household things like furnitures, paper price, very well prepared. You have seen Lenskart, how they have ensured to use VR, where you can actually see your face using the spectacles which you are wearing, and then you can choose that, yes, I need to buy this or not. So that's how we have to gear up in terms of our digital space, so that, I can really have a very good feel. In fact, I'm forgetting the site's name, where you can place yourself inside the room and you can have a complete feel of the room as to how it's shaping up. And that's how real estate is set to gear up.
Shruti, there's a question for you. This is from Siddharth Sharma. He's asking what happens to auto industry where dealer involvement is fairly high. The real physical stores are really relevant. So what happens in that category?
Right, so this is where digital comes in place again, and this is where virtual reality really comes in place. Though dealers are very important, and like I mentioned earlier, that the touch and feel of a product is very important, but so is personalization. And if this continues as is, and the thoughts on this are that we should become more visual and more personal. So you have to show yourself and you have to be personal. So the thought that Ford is going ahead with, and I'll talk about it from the point of view that I'm working on currently, is that a consultant, when you want to go to buy a car, you want to see the name of the person, you want to know the name of the person, you want to see the person individually so that you know who you're talking to, right? Who's selling you the car? Is it the right person or not? And this is just a small example. So some things like you do virtual test drives, things like you have a consultant or a salesperson actually doing a virtual demo of the car while giving you a personal introduction and addressing you as, let's say, Siddharth. Hi, Siddharth. I'm Shruti, and I'd like to show you a car now for a test drive. So that's a personalization effect that comes into place, which is virtual as well as audio. So while you are not really there, but you are giving a face to the name, you are giving a face to the brand, and that's more important in this space, to not lie low, to not die down in the darkness of the media. You have to look for non-traditional mediums to really come up, and with the opportunity in the video content space that we have today, this is a big way that we can change the way we really come out and talk about selling or buying products. So yes, so virtually selling cars is the new try to be.
And if I may just add to Shruti, so are we telling that, that dealers and going and personally visiting dealers will be completely out of context? Certainly not. But you know what? If you go to the dealers and you say, okay, red car is good, but my color is blue. Do you have the blue sample to be shown to me? He will say, sir, वो तो factory workshop में है, आपको अभी दिखा नहीं सकते. But this is exactly where the VR will come in place. You can choose your color, you can choose your seating arrangement, and you can actually have a complete
Absolutely.
rundown, and that will be of great help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like a 360. It's like you're virtually there, you're seeing it all. And then when you see a face to someone who's actually showing that to you online, it just adds to the wow factor. So it's a combination. It's a combination of people, it's a combination of product, it's a combination of place, and it's a combination of acceptance of the consumer to that particular piece. So,
Right.
yes, that is the new
And
you.
and in fact, generally people also do offline to negotiate on the price beyond the product. If you remember, Flipkart had created a bot called Haggle, which was completely on negotiating further the price that was already mentioned on the e-com portal. Okay. So if you can create that kind of a personalized bot, which bases your internal data, as in I can only negotiate and give you a better price after I understand you, right? So if you can create that kind of a bot which can understand, it's obviously it has to be AI and AI led. I think it's pretty much doable. It's pretty much doable.
Gaurav, I want to come to you. The next question, the sender has not it's an anonymous question, but with attention span of less than 5 seconds on digital and only few eyeballs on outdoor and print and TV, what should be the next step of marketeers in digital platforms?
Yeah, I think as you correctly mentioned that time span is only 5 seconds. So that's where when content strategy will come into play, keeping customer empathy in mind, because that's very critical. Your messaging has to be very precise, and during this time, if I'll give you one example, during this time more and more people are you know they want to know what exactly airlines are doing. From my perspective, I can give you my example. From a hygiene perspective, from a safety perspective, what steps we are taking to make sure that passenger will have a hassle free journey, passenger will have a safe and hygiene, we are maintaining all those hygiene parameters and all those stuff. So that's very critical, keeping customer empathy in mind. And if you stitch your entire content strategy around, so that will be a communication strategy you should have, so that you can directly connect with your customer, and certainly you can send a message and what exactly the offering you guys have. So that's very critical at this point in time.
Anushree, for you, there's a question from Mohit Chablani. He's saying, how do we see FMCG brands plan their media spends during the lockdown? Are they planning to use digital media, and will it be standard or interactions and engagement led?
So I think it's a very pertinent question, and we keep kind of struggling to kind of strike that right balance. So while one wants to be really relevant, while one wants to be really topical, I think from a business perspective, there are certain thresholds which can be very well met today. So from a reach and frequency perspective. So I think capitalizing on those parameters should be your first priority. I mean, if I were to kind of if I were to prioritize, I mean, I'm not saying that each is removed from another, but if you have the opportunity to capitalize on this elevated reach and the time spent, I think the first thing to do is to maintain thresholds when it comes to kind of your reach numbers. And then I think the other thing that you need to do is to develop mental availability, which essentially means that being contextual, being relevant. So you will see a whole lot of engagement-based conversations, or working with creators. Today I think someone spoke about content, which is the content strategy, which is right. I think the largest competition to branded content is essentially content from creators or influencers, as we see. So if we pretty much know how to kind of use that content or use them to your advantage, or use them in a sustainable manner to build larger or long lasting associations, I think that is a larger strategy to look at. So I think if I were to prioritize capital, by all means, CPG brands capitalize on the elevated reach from a reach and frequency perspective. If you have more money left, then kind of explore the space of being topical, engagement led, or if you have a really large initiative to talk about, just do not kind of jump on the bandwagon of becoming really topical because you just want to kind of ride the wave. I think if you don't have really something interesting to talk about, I think that the simplest and the most hygiene thing to do is to kind of communicate your brand message.
I want to come to you, Gaurav, and to Zahid, then the same question to both of you. What is your take on OTT content being aired on GECs as there are repeats, as they are repeats? Movies being aired since shoots are on hold. What would be the impact of this repetitive content? This is to Gaurav and Zahid. This is from Pushpa Anantaraman. Gaurav, you can start.
Yeah, okay. So I think OTT, as we have already mentioned, that consumption is already increasing on each and every OTT platform, be it your Netflix or any, you name it, and consumption is already there. So more and more people will continue to consume all these contents and all these things. If I'll give you one example, I think if I'm not correct, so English medium movie was released on one of the OTT platforms in recent days. So that's a big move in terms of having all the cinema halls and everything is currently shut down. So I think we'll see some kind of increment numbers on OTT platform, and it will continue to do so after this lockdown as well.
What do you say, Zahid? What are your thoughts on this?
So yeah, TV is going repetitive. OTT cannot be repetitive because it's an ocean of content out over there, right? So I think what's best done is it's a connected TV experience that people are loving to do at this point of time. It's be it via Fire Stick or Google Chromecast. What you're doing is you're watching OTT on TV, okay, and then it's the ocean is wide open for you. Okay, choose whatever you want to see, and we are seeing data. It's 40 to 50% content that's getting consumed is only Hindi. Only 16% is English. Okay, so that's the kind of content that's being consumed today in India. Yeah, I think work from home was initially perceived as maybe a short-term holiday. Okay, so people love the content. Okay, but slowly realization is setting in. No, this is the new normal, and they're trying to do so. Maybe some part of it, some time spent will be reduced. But I think yeah, OTT is being explored like never before. And the best part is at the cost of OTT, you are getting TV advertisement. I think that's the best part.
Shruti, for you, there's a question from Tanveer Daswani. He's asking that the supply chain of products is it has been disrupted. How do we communicate and promote our brands in a time when we have nothing to sell actually?
So I think we need to, Tanvir, we need to look at this period as not a selling period, but as a being there period. Specifically now, it's not the time to sell. Honestly, if I may put it, it is the time to emotionally connect and to show your presence, to just be there, to talk, and to convey your communication in a more subtle manner. Hard selling is not the key as of this point, but if you're present now, you will be you'll be better remembered, and you will be top of the mind when the shift moves from just consuming content to actually buying the content. So that's the key, and we have to remember that we are not ready to spend high value right now. The spend currently are mostly on groceries or home related items, which are more of an emergency seeking right now, right? So if I'm present as a brand, to just be top of the mind to the consumer, to be able to consume my content, to ensure that I remain there and I don't, right? I mean, the person recognizes me at a brand when they actually want to buy the product, when that shift comes in place, that is most important right now. So be there, be communicable, be pass your message, be subtle, and don't oversell your product is the key. You can go about actually talking about messaging on what your brand does. It could be just related with what your brand stands for and how you stand with the consumer through this period. Just being an emotional support is more viable at this point of time to be around, rather than talking about selling your products hardcore.
So I have another 7 minutes, so we'll quickly have a couple of questions. This one to you, Anushree. What will change in the way brands use digital post-COVID? I mean, how would the digital strategy be different from what it used to be?
I think it's going to become more consolidated in terms of media strategy, so to speak. So there is no digital strategy and there is no traditional media strategy. It's consumers are actually straddling across multiple mediums. I know that the time spent on digital is a little higher than time spent on mediums like television. In fact, television has probably delivered the highest reach possible with some of the nostalgia-based communication. So, what's going to happen is the importance of looking at single source planning, single source measurement, more consolidated media approaches, more consolidated, storytelling. So one, assigning roles to multiple mediums. If certain mediums, like for example, online video and television are upper funnel mediums, how do we kind of stitch the upper funnel mediums with lower funnel mediums, which is your buy now campaigns and commerce-led campaigns, etc. I think consolidation is going to be, I think it's going to become like an imperative. There is no shying away from it. There is no siloed planning or siloed strategy that can be adopted anymore. I think it's just going to be the most important thing to do for marketers is to kind of think, integrated. I mean, I know it's a very passe term to use, but it's to kind of think of the entire consumer journey and that the consumer is likely to kind of traverse, and how to be relevant and be salient across the different points of that consumer journey. I think that's going to become, I think it's been important always, but the importance is really, really going to be more pronounced now.
Right. Shruti, for you, there's a question from Veera. What would be the impact or role of digital marketing on experiential industries? For example,
Well, your voice is breaking.
Yeah.
Your voice is broken. I couldn't hear the question. Could you repeat that for me, please?
Can you hear me now?
No. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a question. What would be the impact of digital on sectors like experience, where auto is kind of auto relies heavily? So how would you create experience using digital?
So if I understand, again, your voice was breaking, but if I understood your question correctly, it's about how would you rely on digital in spaces like auto? Is that correct?
Creating experience.
Creating experiential marketing in spaces like sectors like auto. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier also, experiential marketing is about how you want to provide the experience, right? So the consumer is there to grasp the content that you want to give out. It's a question of whether you are you have the capacity to deliver that experience. So today with digital, and I'll give you a small example of how Ford is doing it. We have our dealerships and people are working from home, and they're actually delivering the experience of the product and test drives by recording their own videos and sending them to customers to tell them that we're there for you. We know it's a tough time, but because you showed interest in a product, we'd like to share product information with you. And they're doing product demos from home. So that's creating a different personalized experience. So when the lockdown opens and people are really going down to the stores to buy the product, you know who you were speaking to, who was making that effort to really give you that experience or give you a positive feel when you were away. So experiential marketing is a way of looking at it. It can be in lieu of product, it can be in lieu of a feeling, it can be in lieu of a video, it can be in lieu of content. And Ford is currently using the space in content. So I think content is the biggest key here, like we've been talking. And we can deliver the content experience however we want to. We've got videos, and the consumption of videos has increased drastically. So that's a positive point for us to look at, where we can really deliver experiential marketing through personalized experiences. That's what's going to really be the highlight and positive point here.
Zahid, I want to come to you. There's a question from Jay Gopal. How are clients going to measure ROI from digital campaigns? What gets measured?
Yeah, I think I was mentioning this point. This is the time that God has given you to all digital marketeers. Please take it with both hands. So see, all this while, a lot of these guys, which is online and offline dependent, the online used to be considered to generate leads. There was no measurement metrics of end to end that these are the leads who have finally got considered. A lot of organizations don't even have the digital integrated with the CRM end to end to understand that, okay, finally which lead got closed by which channel, but this is the entire attribution. So this is the time we have to get the attribution modeling right. This is the time we have to get all the, like, do you have an entire end-to-end analytics in place? We might have, let's say for banking guys, there might be analytics pre-net banking. But if this guy is coming inside net banking, what is he doing? What is he not doing in terms of, is he dropping off? If he's dropping off, do you have a heat map analysis to understand why is he dropping off? These are the times we should invest in the right tools to ensure that we understand the drop off journey. The way a sales guy, see, digital is the biggest branch possible. The way for a, let's say for a car dealer or for a bank, if you go to a bank branch, a sales guy will know the everything about the customer because they have been observing it, and for them sales is passion and the customer is God to them. Okay. In the same way, in digital, we have to know everything about the customer. Why is he dropping off? What convenience can be given to them? The way a lot of e-commerce and the travel guys have done the journey. I think that's what we have to. This is the right time that we have to put these tools in place to do the entire measurement. But having said, the question was that measurement is important, and this is the time. I'm just going through the question once.
Yes. I mean, what gets measured and how do we measure ROI from digital?
So first of all, you have to have the right tools in place. Second, we were telling, and Shruti was also mentioning, this is not the right time for tactical campaigns. This is the time where you have to take a step back and really understand what is your purpose of the brand? Why are you existing? Okay. And hence talk to customer in a very emotional way, which is helpful, hopeful, and inspirational.
Right.
Then when you go tactical, and now when you're talking about this part, this is where top of the funnel content takes place. Like let's say in a banking scenario, people are looking at when moratorium came in, people were clueless what moratorium is. People did not know that the impact of moratorium is good or bad for them. People did not know that the principal amount can be paid, but interest will actually get accrued. Okay. So that was the time either we could have just told do it, but we took a steps ensuring to educate the customer, right? And these things can always be measured by online BLS. The way we have brand track offline, can we establish an online BLS survey? So if you see the entire movement of your campaigns have moved social. So can we have a BLS activated for every post that you do to ensure that the kind of communication, top of the funnel communication that you're doing is showing a lift in your brand or not? And in digital, you can do a BLS basis, state basis geography. You can do that. So every funnel of your campaign that you're doing at this point of time should be measured. Different measurement metrics for different part of the campaign, but they have to do, because this is the right time that we have to show the impact. Either the brand is increasing, or the top of the mind recall is increasing, or the end-to-end business is increasing. Very important. Yes.
So this is my last question to all of you. Same question, but only 30 seconds for this. I would request to keep it for 30 seconds. I'll start with you, Gaurav. All said and done, we have digital and everything, and people are ready to accept the messaging, but we cannot sell to them directly. So one, you have an opportunity, but you cannot use it at the same time because nobody's in the mood to kind of buy things. So how do we kind of negotiate with this different difficult situation? What is your advice? How to deal with this situation?
So I think so first, obviously, if you are not, there are certain brands which are, which were not able to utilize the opportunity of going digital and all. So I think this is the right time going to a drawing board back again, and they can sketch their digital journey, that how they can further optimize and all those things. And as Zahid has clearly mentioned, this is the right time to optimize digital in terms of ROI, because that's the best part about the digital, that you can calculate the each and every single ROI of your spends, beat any of the channels. But you just have to right set of tools with you, where you can optimize, where you can see the entire user journey across your website and all, from which page that person is getting dropped off, and how you can personalize the messaging so that that person can connect with the things. So I think this is something which is very critical. Search engine optimization is something which is most of the companies, they don't even bother to invest time on that, but that's very critical because you can kind of optimize your campaigns. You can get maximum ROI from the search engine optimization channels when person is coming to your website. So I think all these things, it's very critical in terms of implementing all those things.
Right. Anushree, quickly, your thoughts on this.
So I think CPG brands have managed to kind of really get past this curveball that the world has presented. So if you look at the way this entire challenge of overcoming the supply chain issues, I think a lot of CPG brands have piggybacked on existing models. So I think you would have seen whether it's a Unilever or an ITC partnering with the most unsuspected partners like a Domino's delivery engine to directly kind of reach out to consumers. Similarly, there are many initiatives. For example, ITC has ITC on Wheels, which kind of directly kind of takes products from factories to consumers and basically kind of reaching out to or creating these direct to consumer kind of touch points. So I think this has been the time that it's kind of given the opportunity to really rethink your entire consumer journey and how do you kind of truncate it so that you are able to kind of come up with these very startup like ideas. So I think all large organizations have suddenly become so agile and they've moved all sorts of their entire red tape that exists in the middle to kind of completely truncate this journey from production to sales. So I think this is one of those periods that all brands have kind of large CPG brands have adopted the startup way of operating when it comes to sales.
Perfect. Shruti, quick words from you.
I think I'll stick to the facts that it's very important that you keep your house clean. So when you get into your house, you have to see what are the basic, make a checklist and what you need to do in order to first stay top of the mind, and then add on to the measurement metrics that you need to do so that you stay there, right? So it's very important. Do not forget to do your SEO. It's very important. It will help you in the longer run. It will not help you in selling right now, but it will help you because when it takes 2 months to bring into effect. So by the time things start stabilizing, things start coming into pace, it will help you when the consumers are really seeing you to buy the products. Make sure your house is clean. Make sure you have your measurement metrics in place. There are very simple tools available. Google, there's Adobe, there's a lot of stuff available which is easy to access and you can learn online, you can pick up those stuffs. And a lot of the big businesses are really going for the simpler tools to be able to give the cleaner metrics. So clearer and cleaner metrics is very important now, and that's what we should stick to. So I'll keep it short that way.
Zahid, final words, 30 seconds.
So I think customers are our love. And when the love is in a sad state, we have to act like friends. We cannot be opportunistic to sell products at this point of time. We have to behave like friends. That means we have to show empathy. We have to show that we are not opportunistic and I'm there to stay with you no matter how much longer time it takes for you to recover. Just be there to be with him or her. Okay, I think that's my brand, with obviously whatever your brand purpose is. I think that should be the goal of any brand. Having said that, very important, you get ready with the digitization of your process, digitization of your tools, and two important aspects in terms of channels. Video will increase, programmatic will increase, because programmatic can easily get connected with OTT also. Finally, top of the funnel content, very important at this point of time. Tactical is the least thing that we should focus on. Yeah.
Thank you, all of you. We still have another 40 questions unanswered, but we cannot, I'm sorry, we don't have time for it. But we'll be putting this video on YouTube. They can always come and listen to it and post their questions on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and we'll try to reach out to you with those questions. Thank you once again for being part of this virtual second part, and at a physical post-COVID era. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.